All right. So thank you for coming to this Faculty of Arts Internship Awards info session. So today we'll go into details about how to apply for the awards. And if you have any questions, feel free to send them in the chat, or I will have some time at the end of the session as well. So yeah, I'll go through the presentation of our services and the Faculty of Arts internship process. And as I was saying, we'll have time for questions at the end. So if you're not familiar with our office, what do we do at the AIO? We have internship opportunities, funding opportunities that we'll focus on today, and also training opportunities and mentorship. So there's three types of internships at the Arts Internship Office. So we have some internship postings that are in partnership with organizations. Those are already listed on our website, and they have their own info session if you're interested about that. Then we also have a research internship under the Arts Undergraduate Research Internship Award that I'll briefly mention at the end. But if you're interested in research, that would be a good internship for you. And then finally, we're also here to help you find your own internship. So anything beyond those two categories. So this is really who qualifies to apply for the Faculty of Arts Internship Awards, because the first two opportunities already come with a fixed amount of funding. So again, if you're applying for an internship posting, and if you are selected, then you don't have to fill the application for the Faculty of Arts Internship Award. It's automatically funded. It says on each posting the amount of funding that comes with the position. But if you look at the handbook, you would fall under the award recipient section because you do receive an award. But the only difference is that you don't have to apply for an award. And same for ARIA, it's a different kind of funding altogether. So you don't need to fill this application form. So really it's for people who find their own internship. So I will go into the Faculty of Arts Internship Awards application process. So first, what are the awards? So they are a partial funding to offset internship related costs, such as travel, accommodations, visas, and other expenses. I think in the past, it was really focused, a lot of people were traveling for internships, and now there's also cases of people staying in Canada, staying in Montreal, or doing remote internships. So you can still apply no matter what your internship is, but it will depend on, again, the rest of your application where you'll be able to give us more details. It is for students who have a confirmed summer internship. So you only apply for the award after you have secured your internship. You'll have to give us the confirmation and all the details about your internship so that we can assess your application. And the awards exist thanks to the generous donations of alumni and the Arts Undergraduate Society. And the deadline is March 17th. So last year in summer 2023, we had 125 art students receive an Arts Internship Award. And here are their beautiful faces. So just to give you an idea of the cohort feeling as well, all the training and mentorship that comes with receiving an award. So now let's get into the eligibility criteria. So the first criteria is to be in the Faculty of Arts student. Arts and Science falls under Faculty of Arts faculty. And also if you're a master's student, you also qualify for the awards. However, a big criteria is that you have to be returning full-time to McGill in the same program in the fall semester following the internship. So for this year, it would be for the fall 2024. So if you're graduating your bachelor's and then if you're going to stay at McGill for your master's, that would not qualify because it would not be in the same program. Or if you are graduating altogether this semester, then unfortunately you would not qualify for this award. However, we have our colleagues at the career planning services that can help you find resources for after graduation. One question that we got a lot is, can I apply if I'm going on exchange in the fall? And yes, you can still apply because you are still enrolled and you're still a student. So you can still apply for the awards if you're going on exchange. As I was mentioning, so you need to have a secured internship at the time of application. One of the criteria is that the internship takes place in the summer between May and August. and the duration of 8 to 12 weeks. There's also a minimum GPA requirement of 2.7. However, there is room in the application for you to explain if something happened that impacted your GPA.
Jake, could I just add in,
Yeah.
if the student is graduating in the Faculty of Arts and has been accepted into a master's program in the Faculty of Arts, they could apply, but it would have to be back into the Faculty of Arts, not law, not science, not engineering.
All right, thank you. And so what is not eligible for the awards would be activities that are primarily academic research. So again, if you're unsure if your internship, would fall in that category or not, you can come and meet with me or Anne. But again, if you're doing an academic research internship, then I would invite you to look at the ARIA funding. If you're doing a field studies or courses, which is its own entire program, then we cannot fund those opportunities. That they also have their own funding. And something that we always warn about, and that doesn't qualify for our funding, is also third-party and fee-based internship placement organization. So that's an organization where you give them a large amount of money and they will place you into an internship, but they're often very unsafe for students. And so we really warn students against them and cannot fund them. And finally, if you already have an internship secured, or if you're going to secure an internship with a large corporation, for profit, or a privately held company, those internships, every internship ideally should be paid, but especially for a large corporation that would have the fund to pay their interns. But in certain situations, it can be exceptions. So again, if that's your situation, you still required to apply for awards, I would invite you to come email us at AIO and ask to meet with, again, Jade or Anne. And so again, if you're falling under any of these categories, I would invite you to come and meet with us before submitting your application. So I often give, again, a definition of what is an internship, what is not an internship, which kind of falls under what would not be eligible for the awards. So if you're working on your application and you're unsure how to frame it as an internship, the key factors to keep in mind are the learning objectives, the training, and the supervision and mentorship. So again, the difference with a part-time job is that you are gaining skills and learning things during your internship, as well as getting mentorship and supervision very closely from a supervisor. And we always say it's not a mandatory part of your studies. There's no co-op program in the Faculty of Arts. So if ever you apply and you don't secure an internship for this summer, if you're returning to McGill, you would have more opportunities. But obviously we're here to help you find an internship as well. And again, things that are not an internship and that would not qualify for the funding would be also volunteerism internships, which are not internships, where again, it's tourism in a community where they frame it sometimes as an internship. There's also often like a lot of costs associated, and it can be very harmful to yourself and the community that they claim to help. So to warn against that, and the fee-based organizations. So we also have a different info session on how to find your own internship. So again, we have a number of databases and tips and tricks on how to secure the internship in the first place before even thinking of applying to awards. So if you haven't already, I would invite you to go look at that info session. If you can click on this link, I'll share the slides, but it's also on our website that it will show later on. Oh, okay. So now to get to the actual application process of the Faculty of Arts Internship Awards. So there's two elements. There's the main element, which is the Microsoft Forms application, where again, you'll be able to fill it directly and upload certain documents. And then there's the letter of recommendation. That's the only thing that is sent separately. So the letter of recommendation, you only need to submit one letter of recommendation, no more than 350 words. It has to come from a McGill professor, either a faculty member or a lecturer. We recommend giving at least 1 month notice, ideally more, to the professor for them to do the letter. And we really, it's unacceptable for students to ask really last minute for a professor and to really pressure them into writing the letters. So it's really great, again, to do it in advance. And when you ask for the letter of recommendation, you should provide a copy of your CV, a description of your host organization, and a copy of the cover letter you used to apply for your internship. And as I was saying, so that's the only thing that you don't submit through the web form. It should be emailed directly from the professor directly to Anne Turner from your referee. Again, this is a link to Anne's email, but you can also find it on our website and under the funding page. It has all the details. I think there's a question in the chat. There's a question, does the recommendation letter need to be in English? So any application content can be submitted in French or English, but those are the two languages that are accepted, but it can be in French. Someone asked, is a recommendation letter mandatory? Yes, it's a mandatory element to the application. So as I was saying, yes, it's emailed directly to Anne Turner and not included in the application form. And they have to be received by the deadline. Obviously, they can be submitted earlier than that, but they cannot be submitted after the deadline. So again, the deadline being March 17th. So that's why you also want to go in advance to your professor to ask for that letter. You can send a reminder a week or so before the deadline to make sure, it can happen that they can forget. But again, you want to make sure that you don't take too much of their time either. It's also good sometimes to provide like a draft of a recommendation letter and that they can go off of if they want to. So that is the first aspect of the application process. And then the application form. So
Jade,
it's, yes.
I think a lot of people seem to get frightened as to what the recommendation is. Not a same type of recommendation as you would be writing for someone trying to get into law school. Do we have a sort of sample? We have a description, I think, on the website saying what is required. I think it's really not a long. I think gives a number of words, and it might be helpful.
Yeah, 350 words.
350, exactly.
Again, I'll get to the website after, but there is more details on there as well. Obviously, I didn't want to crowd my slides, but it says here I should include capacity in which the referee knows you, and again, it's just a short recommendation letter. So yeah, is there any other questions? Can we ask a TA for the recommendation letter? I believe it would have to be a professor, so
it's a
not
full
TA.
professor, yeah. Right?
So yeah, if there's any other questions, feel free. So the second part would be the application form, which obviously also has to be submitted before the deadline. If you have any questions as well, just to keep in mind, the deadline, I believe, is on the Sunday night, so that we give you the weekend to apply if you haven't finished your application. However, good to keep in mind that our office is only open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Sorry, I got distracted by a question in the chat, but is a recommendation letter required for the AIO internship due February? It says 7th, but it's 11th for AIO postings. And no, there's no recommendation letter for the AIO postings. It's only CV cover letter. So the recommendation letter is only for the awards if you find your own internship and you're applying for funding separately. So for the application form, yes, so to make sure if you have any questions about your application, you also want to maybe aim to submit it the week before the deadline, so that if you have any questions about your application, we can answer them. Note that our office cannot review the individual applications, like we don't read over the documents, but obviously if you have any questions about the application process, we can help you with that. Or again, meet with me or Anne if you have questions about whether you would be eligible or not. And once again, everything has to be submitted before the deadline, including the reference letter, which once again is emailed directly to Anne. So the form is broken down into different sections. So I'm just going to go over them quickly. Again, it might make more sense once you have it open on your screen as well. But again, good to keep in mind that the actual Microsoft forms, you can't click through all the pages until you've had all the information. Like when you start filling it, then you'll be able to submit it and to go through the pages. So that's why we have everything listed very in many details on the website, so that there's no surprises. Like everything is on the website that you'll need to prepare and need to submit. So the first section, I didn't put all of them, but those are personal and academic information that you already have. So your name, your major, your year of study, your date of graduation, things like that. You have to confirm that you meet the eligibility criteria. Once again, for the GPA requirements, if you have experienced barriers which impacted your academic performance and you want to highlight them, then you can write it at the bottom of your application in the further comments all the way at the end of your application. For the personal statement, so again, we give you kind of like a detailed explanation of what you need to put in. Please note as well that we, again, give you like a maximum word count. We give you the file type. You won't be able to upload it if it's a different file type. But please make sure to name them correctly. So again, following the format, it's always the same. It's last name dot first name underscore, and then either personal statement or CV. But if your files are not correctly identified, they're just going to get lost. We get a lot of applications. So it's really important that you you name your files correctly. So the personal statement, again, 750 words with a detailed explanation of your interest in the internship, how it's related to your field of study. If it's not directly related to your major, for example, you can also explain, why it fits in the bigger picture of your career and your interest. The degree to which the duties perform will contribute to your educational and professional development. So as I was saying, it can also be the bigger picture. No matter what you do, you will gain some skills and learning goals out of it. And again, really clearly listing the learning goals and outcomes that you wish to accomplish. So that's a really important part of your application. Then you can upload your CV. Actually, I think we might have removed the CV from that. So I'm sorry, I will double check on that, but it might not be there. But anyways, you should already have it if you secured your internship. But again, I believe we removed it from the application. I'll have to double check that. You will have to submit your unofficial transcript, so not the official one that you have to pay for, the unofficial one on Minerva. I will show you also once I share my screen, or maybe I can just show you now. Can I do it? All right. I might just check very quickly for the CV as well, so I have the answer right now. So funding application form. So this is what the application form looks like. This is kind of like the back end. So it's not going to look like that for you when you click on it. No, okay, my bad. Sorry. We do still have the CV category, so you will need to upload your CV. And it looks like that once you try to fill it. So as I was saying, if you haven't filled all the categories, it's not going to let you go forward. So that's why on the website, which again, I will get to later on, under here, application, you have everything listed in great detail, again, to how you should be naming your file. Again, I made some slides about the same content just so that it's less overwhelming to look at. But it's the same content. All right, so your CV, you do have to upload it, and then your unofficial transcripts. Oh, back to my slides. All right. Then there's a section to put your GPA again, your current GPA. And again, there will be room to explain later down the application. You also have to let us know if you are intending on receiving academic credits, so that I can talk about as well quickly. So maybe I will just share my screen as well here. So a quick note on academic credit. If you are thinking of doing it, it's better that you come and meet with me or Anne beforehand, but it is an option. It's not mandatory. And it's only certain departments that offer the academic credit course. Same as the awards, you have to apply before your internship starts. So when you secure your internship and before it starts. And you cannot retroactively apply for credits. And again, you really have to go into whatever departments that you're majoring or in and see what the requirements are depending on the department, because it looks different for each department. But the way to apply is the same for everyone on the main page. So you would send us a form through another web form. And then we would check the internship part, and then you would find a supervisor to supervise you during your internship. And usually it looks like writing an academic paper that is related to what you did during your internship, but not just a report on your internship. So again, it's an option. If you have any questions about it, you can come and meet with us. And we don't ask any questions like, we don't ask for details in the form, but we just ask to know if you do receive credit or not. Hopefully there's no questions about that. And you can let me know also if there's questions, because I don't see that. All right, so section 3, internship host organization information. So this is, again, because we don't know where you're going to intern, so we need a lot of details to know exactly what the internship looks like. So we need a written confirmation that can either be like a proper letter, like, the internship, they're going to give you an offer. If it's by phone, then you need to ask them to send you an email. It needs to be a written proof, which is better to have for you legally anyways. And it needs to have specific learning goals. It needs to include your internship schedule, the name and title of your job site supervisor, and mention any remuneration. So if there's any funding or benefits offered. Sometimes it can be a letter format. In that case, it should be signed by the host organization. We also accept a screenshot of an email conversation, but that must clearly show the sender, the recipient, and the date that the email was sent. And again, that should be in either French or English. If it's in another language, please have it translated. And then a detailed description of the host organization, so maximum 500 words. That can be like the blurb that they have, on their website or whatever. And then a description of your internship activities and duties, again, maximum 500 words. And again, we give you some more details, so describe your role, some major activities and duties. Obviously, you might not know to the T exactly what you're going to do, but it's very important for you, even going into the internship, to know what your activities and duties are going to be, and to explain to us how it relates, again, to your field of study. And then we need the information of your internship supervisor if you need to contact them. So their name, their title, function, email address, and phone number. And one of the really key aspects of your application is the mentorship aspect. So you will need, there are detailed instructions again on the website. So there is a blurb that you can just copy and paste and send an email to your supervisor. And there's, 2 questions about how they're going to provide mentorship and how often are you going to meet, like details like that. And so you really have to very clearly explain with your supervisor what the mentorship aspect is going to look like, because again, that's what makes the difference between an internship and a regular job. Again, the guidance and training for the intern and how to develop your skills. So I will once again show on the website the blurb. So more internship details, so the start and end dates, if they provide a stipend, so if they pay for your bus tickets, or if there's any funding attached to the posting, how many hours per week, again, is it paid or unpaid? Then in terms of internship location, so again, after the pandemic, we kind of had to tweak our definitions of where the internship will be. Before it was like, where are you going? And so now there's different modes. So we broke it down in 3 categories. So is your internship in person? So whether you're staying in Montreal or you're traveling somewhere for your internship, that means your internship will be in the office location. Is it completely remote? So if it's 100% remote, even if the organization is located somewhere else, but you're not traveling for it, you're just virtually from the start to finish, then you select remote. If it's something in between where you, for example, would travel to the US, but then sometimes you work from home and sometimes you go to the office, then you would select the hybrid option. So hybrid, you still travel for the internship or go to the office, but only for a certain number of days. Again, if you're not sure what category you fall under, you can come and ask us before. You can give us some, you have to give us some quick information about accommodations. Again, this is to make sure that you guys also think about it, to make sure that you have accommodations for the time being and that you have the financial means to cover those accommodations. So again, it takes a lot of preparation in advance to really think about all of those details. Another thing to think about is travel and medical insurance. So you have to confirm that you have sufficient travel and medical insurance. I will share also more resources about that later on. Again, more guidance on what you need to look into before going for your internship. But again, it needs to cover a number of things such as emergencies, trip cancellations, interruption, things like that. All right, I'll take a little sip of water. All right, so now we have a travel section. So you need to advise us if you'll be required to travel during the internship. So obviously, if you're going to France altogether, then obviously that's an obvious travel. But then sometimes you might be staying in Montreal, but then there's going to be like, oh, there's like a week conference in Europe. So you have to specify to us, again, if you are doing any travel, or again, if there's any meetings abroad, if there's a research component, things like that. And yeah, the list of cities and countries and reason for travel. because there are certain requirements. So for students conducting internships outside of Montreal, there is the McGill Student Travel Registry app. Again, obviously that's once you have secured your internship and no later than 4 weeks before the start of your internship, you need to have the app downloaded and all of your information into the app so that McGill knows your whereabouts and in case of emergency can contact you. And for students conducting internships outside of Canada, you need to upload your pre-departure orientation certificate of completion, which I will explain a bit more right now. And you also have to read the Government of Canada's travel advice and advisories, and acknowledge that at the time of your application, the internship location does not fall under avoid non-essential travel or avoid all travel categories. Again, I have another slide on that. So again, for traveling outside of Canada, pre-departure, outside of Montreal Travel Registry, here's the contact information of the Safety Abroad officer. So all of the travel requirements fall under the McGill Abroad office, but we work in partnership with them for all these requirements. So again, if you have any questions about any of like pre-departure, registration, things like that, please contact Lisa. And here's the phone number and email and website. So pre-departure orientation is actually open right now. So they have cycles to register. It's a course on it's going to show up on your My Courses. You have to register between today and February 8th. So you only have a few days to register. It's very quick. You just fill a quick form, and then it's gonna take 1 to 2 business days to show up in your My Courses. And then you have up until February 29th to complete the orientation. It takes about an hour to complete, but it has very crucial information about preparing for travel. And you're going to need, at the end, it's going to give you a certificate of completion that you want to be sure to save on your desktop. And if you apply for, again, a posting that's outside of Canada, or if you apply for an award that requires travel outside of Canada, or credits that outside of Canada, then you're going to need to submit to us the certificate of completion. So again, it's good to do it as early as possible. So I really recommend signing right now. So again, you would have to go on the McGill Abroad website, and then you could just click on the register here for a monthly cycle. Again, we ask people to do it in advance because if you're going to travel abroad, it requires a lot of preparation about like visas and insurance and accommodations. So it's good to do it again as early as possible.
Jade, could I just add in, I don't know if you're going to get to it later, but one of the things we get a lot of questions about is even if you're going home to do the internship, you need to complete the pre-departure and attach your certificate. So say you're a US citizen and you're going back to Boston, you still need to complete this. So I think that's an important, and that must be attached to your award application at the time of the application, March 17th. So you really only have this cycle, I believe, Jade, and it would be very tight.
It would also be March, but like you would have
to,
it would be very tight. So I really recommend doing the February one. But yes,
great.
I didn't have it on my slide, but thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. Yes, because I mean, it might seem silly, but like it's hard for us to know where's home, you know, like how do we gauge that and how do we keep track? So yes, everybody, even if you're going home, has to do that if it's outside of Canada. And again, if it's universally related. So if you're applying for funding, for example. Another thing to think about before applying for the award, if you're doing an internship outside of Canada, you have to go on the Government of Canada website under the link here. So the Global Affairs Canada, the GAC. And as I was mentioning earlier, so they have a ranking or like a code. Sorry. It's like green, orange, yellow, orange, red, and those are the titles for it. So again, if there's like something happening in the country, so there could be exercise normal security precautions, exercise high degree of caution, 3 is avoid non-essential travel, and 4, avoid all travel. So again, even if you're going back home for an internship and the country falls under a category 3 or 4, so like orange or red, unfortunately, you cannot apply for any internship related. It cannot be internship related, so you cannot apply for the funding because of the travel advisory, and that's just a rule, you know, with McGill's. So good to keep in mind as well. I think there's a question in the chat. Oh, the pre-departure website is down. I can have a look. Maybe sometimes the McGill website. Oh no, it seems to be up. Maybe it's a link problem, but it is on our travel websites. Oh, the form. Okay, sorry. You have to log in, and sometimes you have to just refresh the page if the login doesn't work. So yeah, again, the McGill website, sometimes you just refresh a few times and it works, but thank you for pointing it out. All right, so that's for travel. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, it's best to just come meet with myself and Anne. Also, to keep in mind, if you're traveling, if the category changes when you're abroad, you would have to like end your internship. So it's very serious and it's really good to know about and to keep in mind. And I will share more details as well that you can read on in the handbook. So section 5 is the budget. So you need to submit a budget outlining expenses associated with your internship. Again, we provide a template and you have to upload it as a certain file or either Excel or PDF, and you have to name it with the same format. You have to confirm that you're not getting funding from another McGill office apart from one of the bursaries that I'm mentioning. You can receive both of the awards and the AIO bursary. But if you are receiving any funding from any other McGill offices, you would have to let us know. So that's what the budget template looks like. So again, we give you certain categories, accommodations, food, transport. It kind of covers everything like health insurance, medical cost. So again, it's a really good exercise for you to really think about how much cost is going to be associated to your internship. And again, there's no guarantee that the award provided is going to cover all of it. But so you have to be ready to cover some of those costs if necessary. But obviously, especially with travel, it can get expensive. So you really want to be prepared and know exactly what the costs are going to be. So in terms of the budgets, those are just information. But if you're selected for an award, as I was just saying, there's no cover that is going to cover the entirety of the budget submitted. So you have to confirm that you understand that it's partial funding to offset internship-related costs. In terms of disbursement as well, so the funds are issued in 2 disbursements, so 2 payments, one in mid-June and one in mid-July. So you're not going to get the award as soon as you're accepted. It's going to take, again, until mid-June and mid-July. So for example, if you have some like upfront costs, you're going to have to cover them beforehand, and then you'll get the award later on. And they are paid directly through a direct deposit in your Canadian bank account, again, through Minerva. So you want to make sure those information are up to date, and it has to be a Canadian bank account. Again, if there's any worries, you can come and talk to us. So finally, I've mentioned a few times the handbook. I'll show you what it looks like as well. But so the final section of the application form is handbook and declaration. So you have to confirm that your letter of recommendation has been sent to McGill, to McGill from your McGill professor to Anne. Confirm that you've read the handbooks, again, that we'll show you what it looks like, and that you agree with the award recipient's responsibilities before, during, and after the internship. You have to declare that the information is accurate and true, and understand that if the information was not accurate and true, then you might have to return the award money. And give permission for us to share all the application materials with the selection committee for purpose of selection. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a further comment section where you would be able to give us, any additional information if needed, and especially relating to GPA requirements. And again, any urgent questions, should not be on the forum because we only review them after the deadline. So you should rather email us directly at AIO. All right, so now let's say you've submitted all your application form. So what happens after the deadline? So to give you an idea, it's also on the website, the selection criteria, because sometimes people assume like, oh, is it just like the better GPA that will get selected, or, what do you base it on? So there's a few points. Again, it's a very, I always forget the word, comprehensive approach. So we look at everything that you submit. It's not just based on one factor or another. Again, academic performance, but also the quality of the proposal, the letter of recommendation, how it's going to contribute to your educational professional development, your relevant experiences, and other criteria. So you really want to work on every category of your application. It also says priority given to in-person internships. You can also apply if you're doing a remote internship, but there's usually more costs associated with in-person internships. Selection timeline. So again, to give you a bit of a breakdown, so the deadline is March 17th. Sometimes people ask like, oh, if I submitted in February, like, will I hear back earlier? No, because we only look at the applications after the deadline. So on March 18th. So also if you have questions and stuff, you can wait until early March to submit it. You don't have to rush your application. So between March 18th and early April, your application is forwarded to the selection committee, and it takes a few weeks for them to review it and make the selection. And then you will be notified progressively as the selection is made. The deadline for our office to notify you is the week of April 8th. Again, it's not exactly April 8th, but the week of. It might be earlier than that. And then it's listed on the handbook. There are some mandatory information sessions, and reception for all award recipients. And those are on April 12th and 18th. So you already want to save the date for those if you're applying for the awards. So as I mentioned, it comes with, we offer these awards and trainings and funding, but it also comes with responsibilities on the side of the award recipients. And those are all listed in the Arts Internship Handbook. So before the internship, obviously, it's your responsibility to also prepare for your internship, again, for certain requirements that are listed on the handbook. And that also includes mandatory attendance to a number of preparation sessions, like I mentioned, the All Interns meeting on April 12th. And after the internship, so the award recipients are expected to give back to the McGill community by sharing their internship experience with faculty and staff. We have a number of events as well when we come back, and maybe some of you have already benefited from past interns sharing their experience, and that's really what makes the structure of our office so strong, because it's always a cycle of past interns sharing their experiences. So we really want students to be aware of that and to be willing to give back to future students. So again, just a quick overview of what are the mandatory requirements in terms of events and training. So in April, as I mentioned already, there's the All Interns meeting on April 12th, the award reception April 18th. At the start of your internship, there's 2 workshops that are not mandatory, but they're highly recommended for you to really make the most, as it's called. The first one is called Make the Most Out of Your Internship Workshop. And we have a second one of Intern Positionality Workshop. And we work with really awesome external offices on campus and out of campus, again, to bring you extra tools and to really give you all the tools to make the most out of your internship. And when you come back in September, we also have a debriefing session, again, to help you update your CV, how to apply it back to your education and your career, and kind of give you tips, on how to go further and really, again, leverage what you've done during the summer and not just forget about it and move on, because it would be a waste of all the hard work that you've done during the summer. So the famous handbook I've been talking about, this is kind of like the intro page with a table of contents. Again, it has a lot of contents, but it's kind of a lot of the things I've already mentioned today, and it's broken down as before, during, and after. We really ask students to read through it, just again, to know what is going to be required of them during the internship. So I will show you the handbook now, maybe. So if you click on the links, so if you just go straight to the website, it would be under for students, and then you just have to scroll down to handbook, and it's located here. Again, it's a long PDF, but we just put as much details as possible to try to answer any questions. So again, award recipient category, there's different requirements based on what like recipient you are. So award recipients have the most requirements. So as I mentioned, there is the location, time, date for those mandatory meetings. And then award requirements. So there's a section on payment information, a section on the documents you have to submit. There's like a consent form, a bio, a photograph, whether you want to be on our social media or not. And as I mentioned, the awards are funded by certain donors. So sometimes you might be required to send a thank you card to your named donor. You will be informed of the name of your donor once you're selected. And then there's a long category, a very detailed category about travel. So before you apply, you really want to make sure to go through that category of travel. So what I mentioned already with pre-departure, as well as visa and work permits, vaccination, insurance. So again, we try to give you as much information as possible, but it's really the students' responsibility to take care of doing the research, because every situation is different and individual. So again, we try to give you, guidelines to follow. And then as you're getting ready for departure, you want to make sure you have access to your 2-factor authentication and your McGill student travel registry. Again, more resources that we offer during your internship with the trainings and workshops, as well as a 1-month check-in in June. And award requirements. So again, those are the real requirements from award recipients. So there is a very short 1-month report. Again, it's really an opportunity for you to check in with us, and for us to check in with you, and for you to already start reflecting on the 1 month that you've done, and if there's any issues, to address them right away. As I mentioned, there's also a social media post submission if you consent to it, and reminder to take some photographs for the final requirements. We also give you some resources, wellness during your internship, as well as networking opportunities and mentorship opportunities for the next year. And the final requirements, so for everyone that does either credit or AIO or awards, they need to send us a completion letter. So that's a very short, again, email or letter confirming that you've finished your internship from your internship supervisor. There's a mandatory debriefing session on September 6th. Again, you already have the time and date, so you can already book your calendar. And we have an annual event, again, where that's more of a celebration, where we invite donors and past interns, and again, ask for you guys to be speakers and share your experiences. And then the key element, if you're getting an award, is the final report as well. So there's a lot of guidelines. Again, you don't have to read them all now, but again, it's a 1-page, I think 750 words usually it's a page. Again, we give a lot of details, but it's just to help you, and again, just sharing your experience so that we can also inform the donors about all the great work that you've done. And we ask for some photographs as well, so that it's always nicer to have some visuals. So yeah, that's what it is. And oh, there's a very neat checklist. So again, it looks less scary than the 14 pages before that. But yeah, so there's a checklist with who it's mandatory for, is it mandatory or not, and all the information. And you can also print it and just check it yourself. So that's the handbook. I hope I haven't lost you all. I know it's a Friday afternoon. This is also recorded, so you'll be able to go back to it if you missed anything. So under funding available, I mentioned earlier the AIO bursary, the Enriched Educational Opportunities. So it's a need-based bursary through the Student Aids Office. And it's for undergraduate students only. And same as everything else, all the steps should be completed before the start of your internship. And for that, you need to either be receiving credits, or it can be recognized on your co-curricular record, which is really hard to say. So again, if you have any questions about that, so this is the one bursary that you can apply to, as well as the awards. So you can apply to both. And as I mentioned earlier, we also have a research internship program that comes with its own award. It comes with $5,000, and the professor that's supervising you needs to provide $2,500. And so this is really more targeted for people who have completed around 60 credits, or maybe like a U2 student who is really interested in research. The GPA requirement is a bit higher and a bit more strict for that internship, again, because you really need to enjoy academics. And it's also only open to returning students in arts. So if you have any questions, the deadline is coming up pretty quickly for ARIA, but maybe good to keep in mind for next year as well, if you're interested. There is also an info session that goes into detail about how to reach out to professors and how to apply if you're interested. All right, and so now I'll quickly just show you through our website if you're not familiar already. I will close my tabs here. So this is our website. You can just Google AIO McGill, Faculty of Arts Internship Office. So under internships here, as I mentioned, there are postings that you don't have to apply for awards for, just so you know they're here. And then under internships, there's also the Find Your Own Internship with the recording I mentioned earlier, databases you can go through. And at the end, we mentioned the awards that you can apply for. So the real category for you would be the funding. So here you can see the donors that are funding the awards. On the left side, you have the application process. So again, everything I said today is even more detailed on here, and all the steps to apply. So here is the link to the web form that I mentioned earlier. And everything I mentioned, again, is written down here, so can't get lost. And we have even more sections. So about the budget, we go into more details, recommendation letter. Again, there's a whole section here. So that can be helpful. Responsibilities, award payment, travel warning, FAQ. This is just a section, and then the AIO bursary. So if you want to look into that, it's a different application process. So good to note that it's here. The ARIA awards I mentioned as well. The travel section, again, is kind of similar to the handbook, but you can always go back to that as well. Under for students, you can find the information about academic credits. And then under events, we do have most of our workshops and info sessions have passed, but we do have one on how to prepare for an interview on in late February. So again, if you're down the, down the line, a bit more down the line with your application process, that can be really interesting. And the contact information. So we have drop-in hours that I'll mention as well. You can also go under newsletter to sign up for a newsletter, and under staff, as I mentioned earlier, to get Anne's email to send your recommendation letter of recommendation. And if you have any like specific questions, you can email me or Anne. I just noticed my email is not here, but yeah, AIO at McGill is always like the best way to reach us as well. So yeah, this is kind of the end. I kind of went over 45 minutes, so definitely a lot of me talking. If you have any questions, feel free. You can even unmute yourself because we're a small group. But yeah, otherwise you can follow us on social media. Again, send any questions to AIO. We're situated in Leacock room 307. And I will just put the drop-in hours here, but we do have a questions.
Yeah, so
yes,
I was wondering, on the web form we use to apply for pre-departure orientation, how important is like I forget, like the category where it's like, are you going for an internship or research, or like there was that question that asked that. I was wondering, like, if we indicate one category and then we end up going out of the country for another thing, is our pre-departure like orientation still valid?
That's a good question. I don't know, Anne, if you have the
Yes, yes. I think for sure for pre-departure, it's really a general information session about travel. It's when you're doing the travel registry that'll ask you what category you're in, and that one you'd have to be specific.
Okay, but for now, just signing up for the pre-departure orientation, it's okay if I don't know exactly what I'm going to be out of country for.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes. General information, and it's once you get the certificate, it's also good for 1 year. So you could get it now for an internship, and also apply it to if you want to go on an exchange, and within the next year. So
I see. I think
yeah,
I'll
it's
just put like
helpful.
internships
Yeah,
for that one then
for
now.
sure. Good question.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for that.
Yeah, exactly. I forgot to mention earlier, but even if you're not sure that you're going abroad, like it's really better to do the pre-departure, earlier than later. If it's not binding by any means, so even if you don't end up going abroad, like that's okay. And it's the same sort of certificate of completion that you're going to need for different things. So yeah, definitely good to do it. But yeah, it's not binding for anything. But yeah, if you do have more specific questions, you can also ask the safety abroad officer, Lisa. Do we have any other questions?
Dave, could I just add in, since it's a small group, and I just like to give you some information about, there's a question on the application for awards, and it says, tell us about your accommodation. It's very important to clearly write that. So say you are, you're at McGill and you're going to Venice, say for the first time, or who knows where, for your internship. There's a part to tell us, about your accommodations. And it's really helpful to say, I have already looked into this. I have family in this. I will be staying at this hotel for a night, and I have already booked, a rental. What is not going to be helpful in your application is to say, I'll get an Airbnb when I'm there. I, haven't looked into it. So it's very, very important. This year, applications will only be looked at that have someone has really seriously thought through the accommodations. It's really for you and your safety that's put in there.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the things we require and everything is really also to push people to do that preparation. Again, same with pre-departure. We know it's a lot on top of like school and everything. You don't necessarily, you have a lot of priorities, but again, if you are going to travel and if you are going to put yourself in those situations and be there for 2-3 months, it's very important that you prepare very seriously. And again, just to be able to fulfill the internship, those are really qualities to have. So again, a good application, as Anna is saying, is a detailed one and a prepared one for sure. I don't know if you had anything else. Otherwise, I think we'll be able to wrap up. As always, it's AIO@mcgill.ca if you have any questions, or you can drop by in Leacock room 307.
So just one more thing, like what
yeah,
you
sorry.
were just saying, like about like you need to have like all the logistics and like accommodations and stuff planned out. Just to clarify, were you talking about we need to indicate that in our application?
Yes, there's this part in the application. I mean, I'm not asking saying, what's the address really at
Right.
this point, but the thought process has to have been thought out. I am going to live in New York. And someone writes, I'll find an Airbnb. That's not good enough.
Right.
I have already looked into places in New York. I think I could afford a place, in this section. I've looked into it. It's approximately, X amount of dollars a month, to show that you've already done that
Hmm.
exercise first. It's really for that. Is there a specific place that you're thinking of going? Or I'm happy to walk you through that because I think it's really helpful to students to do that
Oh
prior.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I personally was looking at some programs in South Korea.
Yeah. So, I can chat with you for sure. And we can, talk about how I see it or how we'd like to see it on the application for sure. We're here to help you. So anytime you'd like to, please reach
And
out.
what was the name of that section that where we have to like show kind of our thought process and show that we've thought
Yeah,
this out?
it's called accommodations.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
there's a section.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and sometimes it might look different also, if you're not going abroad. So it might be like I'm staying with my sister, or like you're going
Yeah,
back home, I'm going back home. Like again, it might seem weird to share those details, but like it's again important for us to understand. And especially if you're finding your own accommodations, then it's twice as important for you. We just want to make sure that you're safe. And yeah. So I think that's all the questions. I'll stop the recording now.